I still remember the way his mother held her pearls when I walked into the living room, like my presence alone tugged them tighter around her throat. The Christmas lights reflected off the marble floor beneath our feet, scattering warm gold across her perfectly decorated tree. Everything felt staged, curated, even the way she looked at me. Like I was a temporary guest in a home she'd already decided I didn't belong in. It happened during the annual gift exchange. I placed my small, neatly wrapped box on the table, the silver ribbon catching the soft candlelight. I chose something thoughtful, quiet luxury, not loud branding. A cashmere scarf in winter white. She tapped the box with a manicured fingernail. "Where did this come from, Danielle?" Her voice floated through the room like perfume. Sweet on the surface, poison beneath. Before I could answer, she gave a sharp smile. "Discount store." The room fell silent. Evan, my boyfriend, shifted uncomfortably, but said nothing. His mother lifted her chin, amused, waiting for my reaction. I didn't give her one. Instead, I smiled. Soft. Controlled. The kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes because it doesn't need to. I watched the chandelier light catch on the string of pearls hugging her neck, each bead glowing white and perfect. My scarf rested untouched in her lap. She moved on, calling for the next gift as if nothing had happened. As if her words hadn't sliced through the air. As if she hadn't dismissed me as someone beneath her. The rest of the night passed in delicate fragments. Champagne glasses clinking, piano music drifting from the speakers, snow tapping gently against the window. I stayed quiet, observing. Listening. The velvet stockings by the fireplace swayed with every shift in the room's warmth. Humiliation has a sound, you know. A hush. A tightening. A shift of eyes you're not meant to catch. But I caught everything. I didn't fight back. Not then. Not ever in front of an audience. Power rarely announces itself. Especially mine. Because what she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that hospitality was more than my career. It was my empire. My investments stretched across oceans, cities, ski towns, and boardwalks. Resorts, lodges, estates, boutique properties, and one particular oceanfront resort she'd raved about for years. Her dream resort. My property. Owned quietly, through trusts. Managed by teams she'd never think to connect to me. A place she had bookmarked for months, always talking about visiting someday, when holidays weren't so busy and life felt more glamorous. I didn't correct her. Not on Christmas. Not while the fire crackled behind us and the scent of cinnamon drifted through the room. I simply watched her admire the glossy brochure she kept on the coffee table, the one she flipped through when she thought no one was looking, sighing softly at the spa, the infinity pool, the balcony suites that opened over the ocean. She had no idea. She only saw what she wanted. A woman with a small gift. A simple box. A quiet presence. She had no idea how expensive silence could be. I gathered my coat, the soft wool brushing against the marble as I stood. "Thank you for having me," I said gently. Her smile sharpened. "Of course, dear. Next year, maybe aim a little higher." I stepped into the cold night air, snow falling in slow, perfect diamonds around me. My breath formed a small cloud before disappearing into the winter sky. Let her think what she wanted. The real gift was coming. Soon. The morning after Christmas always feels different, quieter, softer, as if the world exhales after all the pretending. I woke before sunrise. The sky still tinted a pale lavender and stretched beneath the warmth of my linen duvet. My room smelled faintly of vanilla and amber from the candle I'd left burning the night before. I rose slowly, slipping into a silk robe that brushed my skin like cool water. The floor beneath my feet, polished mahogany, felt grounded, familiar. Safe. My home had always been a sanctuary, a place untouched by anyone's assumptions about my worth. While the kettle hummed, I opened the balcony doors. A crisp breeze carried the scent of winter ocean. My penthouse overlooked the city on one side and the waterfront on the other, two worlds my life quietly balanced between. Below, people were already moving. Joggers bundled in scarves, delivery trucks humming past, a dog tugging its owner toward the boardwalk. Normal life. Normal rhythms. a contrast to last night's performance of wealth and superiority. I made tea, jasmine, light, fragrant, and let the steam warm my face. Evan texted me early. Mom didn't mean it like that. I took a slow sip. There it was. The first excuse. I typed nothing back. He followed with, "She was just trying to be funny." Funny. Humiliation dressed in pearls and perfume. I placed my phone face down on the marble counter. I wasn't angry. If anything, I felt steady. A strange calm. Because people often tell on themselves long before they realize who they're speaking to. My day unfolded gently. Meetings, emails, calls with managers across the portfolio. I reviewed the quarterly report for the coastal resorts, occupancy up, holiday packages sold out, end-of-year gala planning underway. I signed off on staff bonuses, winter upgrades, and a new partnership proposal with a wellness brand. Through it all, no one raised their voice. No one questioned my worth. No one asked whether something came from a discount store. Power feels different when it's quiet. By mid-afternoon, I drove to the waterfront to check on one of my smaller properties, a boutique inn with blue shutters and a view of the harbor. The lobby smelled of pine and cinnamon, a soft instrumental version of Silent Night playing in the background. The manager, Lila, greeted me warmly. "Miss Frost, everything is running smoothly. Tomorrow's bookings are full." Her professionalism always impressed me. "Good," I said. "Keep the fire pit lit this weekend. Guests love the ambience." She nodded, jotting a note. I walked the grounds slowly, my boots crunching lightly over frost. The ocean sparkled in the distance, waves rolling in soft layers of silver blue. Couples sipped cocoa near the patio heater. A little girl twirled in a red velvet dress, her mother laughing beside her. This softness, this warmth, was my real life, not the judgment wrapped in expensive ribbons from the night before. My phone buzzed again. "Evan, Mom wants us to join them for New Year's. She said she hopes you wear something festive." Another way of saying, "Don't embarrass us." I inhaled deeply, letting the cold air cool the ember of irritation rising inside me. Not anger, not sadness, just a reminder. A reminder of why power is best carried lightly, until it isn't. I spent the evening reviewing plans for one of my newest properties, the luxury oceanfront resort his mother adored, the one she talked about constantly, the one she bookmarked, researched, dreamed about. I studied the holiday schedule, the staff allocations, the VIP bookings. Her name was right there. A reservation for a deluxe ocean suite. 3 nights. Peak holiday pricing. Heaven full. My signature sat at the bottom of the internal approval sheet. She had no idea her stay was already in the hands of the woman she called poor. I closed my laptop and leaned back, the soft leather chair embracing me. Outside my window, snow had begun to fall, slow. Delicate flakes drifting past the city lights like glitter suspended in air. I smiled to myself. Calm before storm. Warmth before truth. Silence before power. Next week would be interesting. The tension started long before she opened her mouth. We were all gathered in Evan's family living room. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the coastline, Christmas garlands draped over every railing, the scent of pine and cinnamon hanging thick in the air. His mother insisted on hosting a proper Frost family holiday, which always meant performing wealth she didn't actually have. Velvet ribbon bows on every doorknob, stage designer books, candles that were never meant to be lit. I sat beside Evan on the cream sofa, smoothing the silk of my burgundy skirt. The fabric glowed softly under the chandelier. Luxury didn't have to shout. It whispered from texture. His mother, Patricia, picked up a small silver bell. "Gift exchange time," she announced, with a smile sharp enough to cut glass. Everyone clapped lightly. Everyone except me, because her eyes were already on me, waiting. She passed out presents one by one, narrating them like she was hosting a televised charity auction. For your brother, a leather wallet. For your father, vintage cufflinks. For Evan, she held the box up dramatically, a luxury timepiece. He grinned. She beamed. It was all so theatrical. Then her gaze slid down to the small box in my lap. "And Danielle," she paused for effect, "brought this." Her fingers gestured at it like it was contagious. I kept my face still. It's just a little something. Little, she repeated, smiling wider. Yes, we noticed. Laughter bubbled around the room. Not loud, just those polite judgmental chuckles that sting worse than shouting. She leaned closer, lowering her voice but making sure everyone heard. Where did you find it, dear? A discount store? Maybe a clearance bin. Someone snickered. Evan didn't defend me. He didn't even look at me. He just ran his thumb across his expensive new watch like a child discovering a toy. I breathed slowly. In. Out. The pearls at my ears felt suddenly colder. Patricia continued. Because humiliating me once was never enough. You know, some of us take holiday giving very seriously. Presentation, value, intention. Her eyes dropped to my box again. Some people simply can't keep up. That one landed. I felt it in my stomach. But I kept my posture straight, fingers brushing the edge of my glass. Crystal, thin, flawless. I lifted it to my lips and sipped. Champagne always tastes sharper when you're holding back a storm. Patricia wasn't done. You know what? She tapped her pearls thoughtfully. I think next year we should all agree on a minimum gift value. Let's say a nothing under $500. That way we avoid any misunderstandings. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Don't you think that's fair, Danielle? I set my champagne down. The glass made a soft, elegant ring against the marble coffee table. That small sound cut through the room louder than any shout. I think people give what they feel, I said softly. And intentions matter more than numbers. She blinked. Of course you'd say that. Evan finally spoke, barely above a murmur. It's fine, Mom. She's trying. Trying. As if I were climbing a mountain just to reach their level. Heat spread across my chest. Not the kind from embarrassment, but something colder, cleaner. Like snow settling on glass. Patricia sat back, satisfied. That settles it, she declared. Next year we raised the bar. In the reflection of the glass cabinet behind her, I saw myself. Calm. Composed. Perfectly still. No one in that room had any idea that I could buy everything in it twice without blinking. No one cared to look deeper. No one recognized the quiet signatures behind 3 of the top resorts in the state. Patricia lifted her champagne flute. To the Frost family, and to keeping standards high. Glasses chimed. Mine didn't move. Because in 3 weeks, she would walk into a luxury resort she'd been saving up to visit for a year. She would check in with excitement. She would brag about finally experiencing real quality. And staff would greet me. Not her. With the words, "Welcome back, Madam Owner." She had no idea her humiliation tour was scheduled to return to sender. Soon. Very soon. The drive home should have been quiet. But silence with Evan always felt like a verdict waiting to be read. The streetlights washed gold across the windshield as snowfall softened the world outside. Each flake drifted slowly, deliberately, so unlike the sharp, careless words still echoing in my ears. Discount store? Clearance bin? She's trying. I rested my head against the cold glass window. The chill grounded me. Sometimes the cold is the only thing that keeps you from breaking. Evan finally cleared his throat. You were a little sensitive back there. Sensitive. I let the words settle in the air between us like ash. What she said, I replied quietly, was uncalled for. He kept his eyes on the road. She didn't mean it like that. You're defending her. I'm explaining, he insisted. My mom just speaks her mind. You know how she is. I turned toward him. And you? My voice stayed soft. Always soft. What's your excuse? He didn't answer. The snow outside looked almost luminous, reflecting in the glass. White, perfect, silent. I watched it melt against the window, little drops running downward like tears I refused to shed. By the time we reached my townhouse, my chest felt tight. Evan walked me to the door. The porch lantern cast a warm glow across the snow-covered steps, illuminating the faint shimmer of the velvet scarf around my neck. He barely noticed. You know I love you, he said, leaning against the railing like the conversation bored him. But you can't expect her to, treat you the same way she treats people she respects. I blinked slowly. He didn't hear himself. He didn't feel the knife he was twisting. "I see," I murmured. Because what else was there to say? He sighed, frustrated. "Can we not make this dramatic? Just bring a better gift next year." A better gift. Not better respect. Not better boundaries. Not better treatment. Just a better price tag. I unlocked the door. "Good night, Evan." He hesitated. "You're upset." I didn't reply because I knew the truth. He didn't want to fix the pain. He wanted me to lower my expectations until they fit his family. When he finally walked away, the snow crunched under his boots, slow, reluctant steps disappearing into the night. Inside, I set my keys on the marble entry table. The soft golden light reflected off the polished surface, casting warm patterns across the room. I inhaled the faint scent of sandalwood from the candle I'd left burning earlier. Everything in my space was peaceful. Everything except me. I changed into something comfortable. Silk pajamas, soft and cool against my skin, then made my way to my office. The glass walls reflected the city's skyline, twinkling through the snowfall like scattered diamonds. I sat at my desk, fingers brushing the edge of a file folder already waiting for me. Frost Harbor Resort, acquisition draft. A deal I had started exploring months ago. An idea I hadn't been sure about. Not until tonight. Not until Patricia Frost looked at my gift like it was an insult to her existence. I opened the file. Page after page glowed under the warm desk lamp. Projections, valuations, partnership distributions. My silent empire, built through holding companies and private trusts, had long been capable of taking this resort. I just hadn't decided whether it was worth the trouble. Now, it felt poetic. My pen hovered over the page. One signature. One email. One wire transfer. That was all it would take. But I wasn't ready to sign. Not yet. Not out of anger. Not out of ego. I wanted clarity. And I wanted control. Quiet control. So instead, I drafted a simple email to my attorney, the one who handled the hospitality side of my portfolio. Continue due diligence on Frost Harbor Resort. No public movement. Keep my identity shielded through the trust. I stared at the message before hitting send. Not revenge. Not yet. Just preparation. When I closed my laptop, the snow outside had thickened into a soft white curtain. The piano from the lodge echoed faintly in my memory, mingling with Patricia's laughter. I pressed my palm against the window. The glass felt cold, steady. I wasn't planning a war. I was preparing a mirror. Sooner or later, Patricia Frost would see her reflection clearly, and realize she had been aiming her disdain upward the entire time. Snow still clung to the sidewalks 2 days later, softening the city into pale gold under the morning sun. I stepped out of my townhouse with a travel mug in hand, peppermint tea, steam curling like silk ribbons in the cold air, and walked toward my car. Evan texted twice. "Morning. You free tonight?" I didn't reply. My mind was already elsewhere, on contracts, valuations, the steady hum of power moving beneath the surface like an undercurrent only I could feel. When I slid into the driver's seat, my phone buzzed again. But this time it wasn't him. Frost Harbor legal packet is ready for review. Draft valuation included. Trust representative will be on-site Thursday to finalize inspection. Reminder, acquisition remains confidential. I read each line calmly, fingers wrapped around the warm mug. This wasn't new. Power, when held quietly, becomes routine. But today, the timing felt almost cinematic. I spent the morning visiting one of my boutique properties across town. The lobby smelled faintly of sandalwood and fresh lilies, my signature blend. The marble floors reflected soft winter sunlight, and the velvet lounge chairs were arranged with perfect symmetry. "Miss Frost," the manager greeted, bowing his head slightly. "We prepared the conference room for your review." I nodded. He walked me inside, where financial reports were laid out neatly, end-of-year projections, occupancy trends, seasonal patterns. I moved through them with practiced ease, taking notes in the margins with a gold fountain pen. While I worked, the receptionist peeked through the glass door. "Excuse me, Miss Frost," she said softly. "Someone is asking for you." Evan. Of all days. He stepped into the room, cheeks flushed from the cold, fingers tugging at his scarf like he regretted coming. "I stopped by your place," he started. "You weren't home. I had meetings." He looked around, taking in the minimalist luxury, the pearl-toned walls, the crystal pendant lights, the way staff moved around me with quiet respect. He didn't comment on any of it. Instead, "We need to talk about my mom." I closed the file I was reviewing, not with annoyance, just with intention. "What about her?" He sat across from me, oblivious to the significance of the room he was sitting in, oblivious to the branded reports spread neatly on the table, oblivious to the initials DF Holdings on every page. "She feels bad, you know," he said. She said maybe she was a little harsh. A little. What she said was demeaning, I replied evenly. "You heard her." He rubbed his forehead. "I know. But you didn't have to leave so abruptly. It made things awkward." I exhaled slowly. There it was again, the expectation that I make disrespect easier for everyone to swallow. Before I could answer, my attorney called. I excused myself and stepped outside the conference room. His voice was crisp and efficient. "The resort valuation came back stronger than projected. If you approve, we can begin the preliminary purchase formalities this evening." I watched Evan through the glass as he waited for me, tapping his fingers on the table. "I'll review everything tonight," I told my attorney. "Understood, Ms. Frost." When I returned, Evan didn't ask who had called. He didn't ask why staff addressed me with such deference. He didn't ask why I had a conference room filled with property revenue reports. He was too focused on smoothing over his mother's image. "Can you try with her again?" he asked quietly. "She wants us all together for New Year's." "She likes you, Danielle." "Really? Likes me?" The irony nearly made me smile. "She mocked me, Evan." "I know, but..." The manager knocked softly. "Miss Frost? Your driver is ready." Evan blinked. "Driver?" I collected my coat, white wool, soft as winter cloud, and slipped it over my shoulders. The manager held the door for me, bowing his head again. Evan rose slowly, confusion clouding his features. "You have a driver now?" "I always did," I said gently. He didn't respond. His mind was still piecing together fragments he'd long ignored. But still, he didn't ask the right question. He didn't connect the dots. He didn't see. We stepped outside into crisp winter air. My driver opened the back door with a quiet "Ms. Frost." Evan stared. "Since when?" "Since always," I repeated, sliding into the car. He stood there, breath visible in the cold, watching the door close. Clue after clue, right in front of him. And he still saw only what he wanted to see. Power makes no sound when it moves. But the world trembles around it. The first real shift happened quietly, so quietly that anyone who wasn't paying attention would have missed it entirely. A soft snowfall dusted the coastal highway as my car pulled up to Frost Harbor Resort, the very place Evan's mother had booked for her New Year reset. The property stretched along the shoreline like a crown. Glass balconies, warm golden lights flickering behind cedar-paneled suites, and a long entrance framed with lanterns that glowed like amber jewels. I stepped out of the Mercedes, the cold air catching on the pearl pins in my hair. My driver handed me my gloves, cream leather lined with silk, and nodded before pulling away. Inside, the lobby hummed with holiday energy. The scent of pine and vanilla drifted through the air, candles flickering softly atop marble tables. A pianist near the lounge played a slow winter melody, every note dipped in warmth. Guests took photos near the champagne tower. And at the center of it all, Evan's mother, wrapped in a thick fur coat, barking instructions at the front desk as if commanding troops. "This suite faces the wrong direction," she snapped. "I want ocean views. And make sure breakfast is complimentary. At these prices I should be getting more than eggs and toast." The front desk supervisor, my most experienced staff member, smiled politely but looked strained. "Of course, ma'am. I'll confirm everything." She sighed loudly, adjusting her diamond bracelet. "Honestly, this place better be worth it." The woman on the phone acted like it was some luxury palace. "It is," I thought. Her eyes swept across the lobby, then landed on me. Her chin lifted slightly. "You again," she muttered. "Still tagging along, I see." I didn't answer. I only offered a quiet smile and removed my gloves, letting the warmth of the lodge settle on my skin. Behind her, the concierge noticed me and straightened with recognition. "Miss Frost," he called gently, too loudly for her comfort. "Your private meeting room is ready whenever you are. Shall I have the board documents sent now?" "Board documents." Her expression faltered. "Board," she repeated under her breath. "What board?" But before she could pry further, my assistant approached, clipboard in hand, posture sharp, voice crisp. "Miss Frost, the CEO of the hospitality group is already upstairs. They're setting up the valuation report. The endowment consultant is waiting for your signature on the acquisition packet." Her eyes widened so visibly it almost made a sound. She looked from my assistant to the concierge to me. What is all this?" she stuttered. I kept my face calm, composed, almost gentle. "Just work." Her jaw clenched. "Work? You never said what you do." "I wasn't asked." She blinked, taken aback, offended, confused all at once. But still, her mind refused to make the leap. "Not yet." Across the lobby, Evan rushed in, cheeks flushed from the cold. "There you are," he said breathlessly. "I thought you were meeting us upstairs." "I had business first." Before he could respond, the general manager approached, a tall man with silver cufflinks and the air of someone who runs empires quietly. "Miss Frost," he greeted. "The presidential suite is prepared. Would you like us to bring up the wine pairing and charcuterie selection now?" Evan's head whipped toward me, so fast I thought I heard his neck crack. The presidential suite? "For Miss Frost, yes," the GM replied without hesitation. "As always." Evan's mother gaped like she'd swallowed a snowflake. "As always," she echoed. The GM nodded respectfully. "Miss Frost stays with us regularly during acquisition cycles." Evan blinked. "AC what?" I steadied my coat around my shoulders. "A business process." The GM gestured toward the elevators with a reverent sweep. "Whenever you're ready, ma'am." I glanced at Evan and his mother, both silent, both processing, both standing in a luxury resort without realizing they were guests in a place that ultimately answered to me. This was the moment the air shifted. Not a reveal, but the tremor before it. A faint suspicion stirred behind their eyes. An unease. A realization that maybe, just maybe, they had been speaking to me incorrectly. But suspicion is not the same as truth. They were still far from understanding who I truly was. And the universe in its poetic timing wasn't done with them yet. As the elevator doors opened, revealing a polished interior with golden backlighting and mirrored panels, the GM said softly. "Miss Frost, the owner's ledger is upstairs. We'll review the estate portion whenever you're ready." Owner's ledger. This time, neither of them breathed. I stepped inside. The doors closed. Silence swallowed the lobby behind me. The presidential floor was quiet, so quiet that even the carpet seemed to absorb sound on purpose. Soft gold lighting shimmered along the hallway, reflecting gently off the glass sconces. Snow fell beyond the balcony windows in slow, deliberate drifts, as if the universe itself was taking its time. I walked toward the boardroom, the private one on the top corner of the resort, the one no guest ever saw. Inside, a mahogany table stretched beneath a chandelier made of hand-blown glass. Papers were arranged neatly. Valuation reports, estate summaries, partnership renewals, and most important, the acquisition packet with my signature tab waiting. My team stood the moment I entered. "Good afternoon, Miss Frost," the general manager said with a respectful nod. I took my seat at the head of the table. The chair fit me perfectly because it was designed for me. Literally built to match my height, posture, and reach. I signed the final document. A simple stroke of a pen. The kind of motion that shifts the ground under people's feet. Outside the room, a voice familiar, irritated, and getting closer. "Evan." And his mother. "Why are we even up here?" she hissed. "This floor is for owners and executives. They don't allow guests." "I know," Evan whispered. "But the concierge just told me she'd be up here." "Why would she be up here?" The door swung open. They froze in the threshold. Their eyes went first to the chandelier, then to the table, then to the documents marked with the Frost Harbor emblem, then finally to me. sitting at the head of the table. The general manager stepped forward. "Miss Frost, should we proceed with announcing the acquisition to the staff? They're waiting in the main hall." Evan blinked. "Miss Frost." His mother's voice cracked. "What acquisition?" The GM glanced at her politely, then spoke to me again, the only person in the room who mattered. "The purchase is complete. Frost Harbor Resort is officially under the Frost Hospitality Group, pending board acknowledgement. Your ownership share will be reflected in tomorrow's shareholder report." Evan's mother staggered backward as if the words struck her physically. "Ownership share?" she whispered. I folded my hands calmly. "Yes, I own the resort." Silence. Real silence. The kind that weighs more than any insult ever could. Evan opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again, searching for words he didn't have. His cheeks were bright red. Humiliation in its purest form. You own this place?" he stammered. "I do. But why didn't you say anything?" His voice cracked somewhere between confusion and shame. I lifted one shoulder slightly. "You never asked." His mother pressed a hand to her pearls, the same ones she clutched while calling me poor. "This can't be real," she said, voice trembling. You let me talk to you like that. You let me insult me." I finished softly. "Yes, you did." Her face twisted in mortification. If regret had a sound, it would have been her breath in that moment. Evan stepped closer, voice low. "Danielle, you should have told me." "I did," I replied. "Just not with words." He frowned. "What does that mean?" "The staff knew me. The management knew me. The documents with my name were everywhere. Power doesn't need to announce itself, Evan. It's just present." His mother swallowed hard. "So this whole place, the room I booked, is mine?" A gentle smile. "Yes." A beat of shocked silence filled the room. Then the general manager, with perfect timing, stepped aside and opened the door. "Ms. Frost," he said, bowing slightly, "the staff is gathered downstairs awaiting your holiday address." Holiday address. Her eyes widened again. Address. Owner. Board. Miss Frost. All the puzzle pieces snapping into place. I rose from my chair. The pearls at my ears caught the chandelier light, scattering small sparks across the table. Evan stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. His mother stared like she wished she could disappear. Neither said a word as I walked past them. The truth had finally landed. And the room, the hallway, the entire floor, fell into the kind of silence that tastes like justice. Not loud, not cruel, but utterly, beautifully undeniable. The grand hall shimmered under soft candlelit sconces, the kind that warmed every corner without ever turning harsh. A pianist played near the fireplace, fingers gliding across the keys in a slow winter melody. Guests gathered with champagne flutes, their voices low and reverent, unaware of the shift that was about to reshape the room. The staff lined up along the walls, uniforms pressed, posture straight, eyes bright with anticipation. They knew what today meant. They'd waited for it. The resort wasn't just a business. It was a legacy, and every person in this hall had helped keep it alive. When I reached the balcony steps, the manager nodded to the sound crew. The music softened. The chatter dimmed. A quiet ripple moved across the hall. I stepped into the glow. For a moment, everything stilled. The snow outside, the fire's crackle, even the rustle of silk gowns brushing against marble. I felt the warmth of the room wrap around me like a velvet cloak. And then the announcement began. "Ladies and gentlemen," the manager said, voice rich and steady, "allow me to introduce the owner of Frost Harbor Resort, Ms. Danielle Frost." The room erupted into applause. Not the forced kind, not the polite kind, but the kind that rises from genuine respect. My gaze drifted naturally, just for a heartbeat, toward the back wall. Evan stood there stiff as stone. His mother beside him, pale as snowfall, clutching her pearls like a lifeline. Her room key still hung from her hand. I stepped forward. "Thank you," I said, letting the quiet settle. "This resort has been my home long before it became my investment. Every holiday season, I walk these hallways and feel the care this staff pours into every detail. Every syllable was warm calm, power never once needing to raise its voice. From the fireplace reeds to the marble steps outside, everything you see is maintained by people who treat this place like family. I saw staff swallow down emotion. I saw guests smile softly. I saw Evan's mother shrink an inch. And to our holiday guests, I continued, thank you for choosing Frost Harbor. We hope this season brings you peace, comfort, and perhaps a reminder that value isn't always visible at first glance. A subtle shift rippled through the crowd. A few guests turned toward Evan's mother. It wasn't obvious, but it was enough. I lifted a glass handed to me by the concierge. Champagne bubbles rose gently, catching the light like tiny stars. To kindness, I said. To dignity. And to knowing the worth of those around us, even when we don't recognize it immediately. The guests echoed, to kindness, raising their glasses. But Evan didn't. Neither did his mother. They just stood there, silent, locked in their own unraveling. As the applause faded, I stepped down from the balcony, letting staff and guests move past me in a swirl of velvet and winter perfume. The pianist resumed playing, soft notes trickling back through the room. When I reached the back, Evan stepped forward. Danielle. I didn't know. I looked at him, steady, calm, unhurt. I know, I said. His mother forced a smile that died immediately. I'm sure we can. We're done, I said gently. All of us. No anger. No raised voice. Just truth. Evan's face fell. His mother's shoulders slumped. I walked past them, slow, deliberate, heels echoing lightly against the marble. Outside the hall, snowfall brushed against the balcony glass, catching the golden light just enough to glow. The resort breathed. The winter air softened. My chest loosened for the first time in weeks. Justice didn't need noise. It never did. Sometimes it just needed a room full of people, and the truth. I paused at the window, letting the peaceful view settle inside me. Have you ever been dismissed or judged too soon? Tell me your story below, and where you're watching from.